Welcome to episode one of Write This Down, a podcast that's your insider pass to the strategies, stories, and secrets that make content work. Whether you're hustling as a freelance content writer, scaling your marketing chops, or just trying to figure out what content strategy really means, this is where you can find real talk, actionable tips, and a sprinkle of edgy ideas to keep things interesting. I'm Supriya.
I am Aditi.
And today we're giving you a hot button topic: why most content writers will be jobless in 5 years and how you can avoid being one of them. Content writing is one of the most dynamic and rewarding careers, but it's also changing really, really fast thanks to AI, market saturation, and shifting client expectations. So, I'm going to unpack some of the threats to content writing careers and then give you some actionable strategies that you can use to stay ahead.
Okay, so I am ready to dig deep and get some answers from you, Supriya. So, whether you're a seasoned writer or just starting out, if you've ever worried about staying relevant in this industry, grab a coffee, sit back, and let's get started. Let's start with the elephant in the room. A recent survey had over 80% digital marketers stating that content writers will lose their job to AI. What and why are content writers at risk of losing their jobs? And what is causing this shift?
Okay, I think that's a very, very pertinent question and something that literally everybody in on every platform is asking me. This whole threat that seems to be there because of the advent of AI. But I think one of the biggest challenges to content writing jobs is saturation, because over the last couple of years, platforms like, Fiverr, Upwork, and all these freelancing platforms have sort of come up and they made it incredibly easy for anyone to call themselves a content writer. And the result is that millions of writers are competing for work on these platforms. And it's sort of, turned into a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing. So, clients are looking at people who are offering them, 1,000 word blogs for just $500, and they're like, why do I need to pay more? Yeah. And that's really the worst part because most clients don't even realize that, they're getting low quality work because of this price war that's going on. And sometimes they sort of, feel that content is just words on a page, and not just client, even content writers think that, it's just you have to string two words together. But the point is that there's a huge lost opportunity when you enter something with that mindset. And poorly researched, uninspired content is actually losing business for your clients, right? So I think one thing writers and clients both need to get very clear on is content isn't just about filling a website, it is a very, very important driver of brand perception, of trust, of conversion. And the more you compete on cost, right, or the more clients focus on pricing, um, going cheaper is hurting everybody, right? But convincing people of this is very difficult. They don't understand and they don't value the strategy behind good content. So more than AI, I feel that it is the saturation that is a big challenge to content writing jobs.
That is so true. Moving beyond pricing, which is, like you told, one of the major challenges, AI has also come up. Would you tell us some more thoughts about this?
Sure. So, sorry, and I didn't answer that part of your previous question, but AI definitely is a tough competition, okay? But the thing is that it's not only for content, but across industries that AI is making its presence felt. When it comes to content, there are tools like ChatGPT or Jasper, if you're whatever you're using, they generate entire articles in a matter of seconds, right? Humanly, it's impossible to compete with them when it comes to speed of generation, right? Now, for clients who are looking at bulk content and volume content, right? Like churning out product descriptions or SEO filler content kind of a thing, then AI is a no-brainer, right? Because it's fast, it's cheap, it's scalable, which makes it look like a much better investment than hiring a human. But here's the thing. AI can't do everything. It sort of has a lot of limits. One of them being that it really can't replace the thought process behind strategic content creation, right? And maybe we could discuss that a little bit more in detail later. But essentially, AI doesn't have the mechanism to understand nuance, okay? It can't really capture a brand voice or, really go deep into storytelling that is unique to a brand or a product, yeah? It also can't ask the more relevant and tough questions that as writers we ask to understand the audience. So this is where I feel in the field of content writing, especially human creativity and insight is, as yet irreplaceable. And I have seen that in practice, right? Even though AI is easily available, I mean, I work with a lot of tech clients who are literally building these AI models, but even now, very frequently, I get calls from these clients who are looking for content quality writers, right? Because AI is just not able to understand what is needed and how to spin a content which is not, very repetitive or cliched or just like a regurgitation of all the facts that are out there on the internet. So, people definitely want those human insights, human creativity, human thought process, and the ideation to make that their content stand out, right? So if you are in a business of creating this quality content, then you're sort of safe. But the catch is this, right? And unfortunately applies to most content writers. If you're offering cookie cutter generic content, then you're in trouble because AI is really, really catching up fast on that note, right? You give some interesting prompts and it churns out a great SEO article. Yeah. So if you're in that volume play, this is the time to rethink your strategy, rethink your business model, and upskill, up level, and redefine your value proposition for your client. Otherwise, yes, you are, you will be one of those people who will be out of a job in 5 years. But if you're thinking value over volume, you're safe.
So we've spoken about how AI is transforming the content writing space, but could we dig a little deeper? How is exactly AI learning from us, and what are the current limitations that it has?
Okay, great question. And this is, probably what I was thinking when I said, let's dig a bit deeper into how AI creates content. So essentially there's a process called machine learning. This is what AI uses to learn from all the data that we provide it. So it's trained on really, really massive data sets. Um, and maybe something like a ChatGPT is learning from everything that is available on the internet, and most of it is human generated content. Everything from blogs to books to tweets or comments, etc. So it processes all of that and it learns. Okay. Like ChatGPT has learned from billions of words pulled from the internet, and it what it does it helps the AI understand patterns of how something is written. So it predicts what comes next in a sentence and generates responses that sort of feel human. Okay. But the thing is this, AI, while it's doing that, it's not truly understanding context or emotion. Okay. It's just predicting the most statistically likely sequence of words based on the training that the extensive training that it's gone through, right? So it's not comprehending the deeper meaning of the words that it's putting out there. It's just, probability. So while it's producing great grammatically correct, relevant content which flows logically, like I said, it lacks that nuance that comes from lived experiences, right? Or cultural understanding. So, for example, let's say if you want to write a blog and you give it a prompt, something around, writing a blog about family traditions, okay? It can give you a generic piece, but it really won't include the emotional depth or personal anecdotes that you can, use to make that content truly resonate. To do that, you'll have to give it stronger prompts with all those things bundled in, which you might as well use to write the content yourself and make it more personal, right? So that's where I feel writers like ourselves are indispensable because we bring this human element that AI simply, cannot replicate yet.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's such an important point. Now, talking about like the issue of ever-changing client expectations, would you say that that is also a big factor?
Definitely. I mean, client expectations are always evolving, right? What they wanted 10 years ago, they don't want today. And I think one of the biggest changes that has happened, especially in the content writing landscape, is that um, the valuable clients, right? The ones who understand the importance of content, they want content that drives results, right? So if you find it difficult to connect your content to metrics like traffic, leads, conversions, engagement, and so on and so forth, then they will look at you as a cost. So yes, client expectations are changing, and the good ones really know what they want out of it, and therefore the way you pitch content to them also needs to change, right? It's not about price anymore; it's about value, like I said. The other thing that's happened beyond client expectations is that ultimate end user or the reader expectations are also evolving, right? And when I say reader, I mean people who consume content in any form, shape, or whatever, right? It's not just like we don't only write content nowadays; it's also available to people in multiple formats, like how you are hearing this podcast today. So the end consumers who consume this content that you create, their attention is very valuable, okay? Because they are so bombarded with messages day in and day out that they don't really have even a microsecond of attention to spare for uninteresting and valueless content, okay? Um, so you will see how content itself has changed to compensate for this, right? Earlier, where people were reading big books or long articles or 5,000 word white papers, they are now looking increasingly, they're turning to short form videos that are dominating the content space. You'll see TikToks or YouTube shorts, Instagram reels that, they've really proven that people prefer bite-sized visual content. Okay. So it is important for content writers to understand both these factors, right? What does my client want? What does their end user want? And then marry these two to figure out what will sell, right? Like for example, I was reading some report by HubSpot, and it sort of stated that majority of marketers are planning to increase their investment in short form video. Okay. Now, as a writer, if you're only writing long form copy, then you're missing out on this piece of pie that is generating better returns, right? So you need to adapt your style and your offering by creating, more focusing maybe more on scripts, on captions, or using these things, using your long form content around these things to support these new age formats, right? So basically, the idea is that you need to evolve your offerings and match expectations of both the client and the end consumer. And that's the only way you will continue to stay relevant.
All right. It's time to bust some myths about this industry now. First up, AI is stealing all our jobs. True or false?
False, but it depends. Like I said previously, AI is not here to replace good writers, it is here to replace lazy writers, okay? So if you're like I said, if the content that you send out to clients is generic, it's uninspired, it's like doesn't engage readers, then AI will outperform you every time. Okay. But if you're adding creativity, strategy, if you're, able to add that emotional resonance and bring like a deep understanding of the audience to the table, then you're safe. Okay. Um, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into the emotional connect, right? Because I mentioned that, right? How it's not able to get the nuance or the emotion, it's not able to replicate that, right? So this can become really your strong point if you're able to do it well, okay? To give an example, again, last year there was a story in The Verge about a major sports channel that was using generative AI to create, some recaps of women's soccer games and update on their website. Now, what happened was that these recaps turned out to be very bland, and they completely missed the emotional aspect of the game, right? And when we talk sports, we are emotionally attached to a sport, right? You say cricket in India, and it's not really a sport, it's an emotion, okay? And same goes for soccer or football or whatever you call it, in different countries, right? So when they were using these AI generated recaps, the emotion part of missing, right? So they were mentioning this story that there's this one player who was playing the final game of her professional career, okay? And that's like a major milestone. And a human writer would probably cover what her contributions meant and how it's a sad loss for the sporting community and so on and so forth. They'll bring that emotional element in, but AI completely missed covering the significant event, right? That recap just talked about, okay, who were the players, what they scored and stuff like that. So and fans felt strongly about it, okay? So this is where human touch can really capture the whole depth of human experience and make content that much more engaging for audience, which AI is not able to get because it's just generating, grammatically correct sequences of whatever inputs that you give them, right? So this is where I feel there's crazy opportunity, because I feel the global market for content is really growing. Last year only it was around some 500 billion, and it's really growing rapidly. So the point is, opportunity is there. Even with AI, there's a big piece of pie for you to capture. The question becomes, what are you doing to capture that market, right? Because it's nobody's going to hand it to you on a platter. You have to work to get that high income in for yourself, or to stay relevant. So I think we all need a bit of introspection to see what are we doing and how are we going to continue staying relevant in a world where not just in content, but across the board, AI is going to take over execution-led tasks.
Got it. So the next myth is you have to find your niche first to succeed. What is your take?
I think that's partially true. I mean, specialization can definitely, help you stand out, right? Once you work in one area for a very long time, then you sort of get to know that subject in depth, and anytime something comes, you can churn out more value content, right? Um, so people pay for expertise, okay? And also if you have prior background in something, right? So for example, I have a tech background, so it makes sense for me to write tech stuff, and therefore that niche is more lucrative for me. But it's not the only way to succeed, right? There are definitely some areas and industries that might pay more, where more expertise is needed, like AI, healthcare, finance, legal, those kind of things, where you can't churn out good content without having invested time and effort in learning about that industry first. So you're getting compensated for the time and effort that you've already put in, right? Um, but I feel more than the niche, it's about how you position yourself, right? And like I said, they pay for expertise. So whether it's that industry like healthcare or a content type like white paper, thought leadership, things like that, um, that is more valuable to your career. The thing is that you need to show clients that you deeply understand their problems and you can offer the solutions that will be more relevant for their business, and you come with a holistic understanding and thought process around that industry or around that content type, right? So if you're able to demonstrate that expertise, then I think niche doesn't really matter. Like I have written for perfumes, detergents, wines, real estate, coaching, you name it, though my core niche is tech. But I was able to demonstrate an understanding of the business and, ability to research and to churn out better. Like one of my strengths is also storytelling, so I could showcase that, and therefore people were willing to pay me more money. So, like the niche didn't really matter in that context, right? But the expertise and the capability of churning out the kind of content they wanted was what got me business at the rates that I commanded. So yes, niche is good because it builds your expertise, but also it's not like the be all and end all of everything.
Understood. And what about SEO? People keep saying SEO is dead. Do you agree?
Um, okay. I wouldn't say it's dead. It's just evolved because, and I think it's evolved for some time now. It's just that a lot of people fail to see it, right? Because I have talked to a lot of SEO writers within, the Content Collective, this community of 34,000 writers, and people seem to think that SEO is only about putting those keywords in, right? And initially, when a couple of years earlier when we looked at SEO, everybody said, okay, here's a keyword, write it 10 times in the first 200 words, right? And that is what people thought SEO was all about. But that's not how the search engine optimizes, right? These algorithms are getting updated every day, and what they're looking for more and more, especially as AI generated content also enters the mix, is that how valuable the content is, right? Um, and if you see, look at most of the SEO blogs from a couple of years ago, they are so boring to read, right? You know it is content written for the sake of writing, and it's just not adding any value to anyone. They're poor grammar, poor language, poor narration, poor flow. But yeah, so previously, if you look at this whole keyword stuffing was what dominated the SEO thinking. But today SEO has really evolved. It's moved beyond keyword stuffing to really how valuable that article or the piece of content is going to be for the reader. Okay. And also search has moved beyond Google, because earlier that's what most companies were optimizing for, right? But today, if you look at it, a lot of us have moved our search from a search engine like Google to, let's say, an Instagram, or to, let's say, even a chat GPT. Okay. So I was listening to one of the Neil Patel's videos, and he said something very interesting. That's it's SEO is no longer about search engine optimization. It is about search everything optimization. Okay. And there's also another thing, like voice search optimization has come in, because a lot of us just leave a voice command, and that those keywords are very different from what we type into our systems. So SEO is definitely evolving, and if you're able to understand the new face of it, if you're able to understand how these algorithms are ranking content, then you will definitely uh, be more in demand as well.
Super. Now that we've unpacked the challenges, let's talk solution. How can content writers future-proof their careers?
Okay, that's a loaded question. I think first step would be to stop being a writer. Okay, um, you have to position yourself as a strategist or an ideator. Okay, so for example, instead of saying I'll write 10 blogs for you, you have to go pitch yourself as, I'll create a content strategy for you that will help you generate leads, or that will help build your engagement, or things like that, right? Because, like I said previously, clients don't just want content, they want solutions. Because most of the people that you will work with are not in the content creation industry, they are in another industry, right? They are either in healthcare or lifestyle or finance or whatever. They're trying to sell a product, and they're using content as a means to sell the product. Okay. So their problem statement is not how do I create the best content out there. Their problem statement is how do I leverage content to sell my product or service. Okay. And as a writer, if you're able to give them those ideas, if you're able to tell them how to engage their end consumers more, then they are more likely to work with you, right? So your first call to action, your first thing to do is to develop a strategic thinking ability, right? So don't think from a transactional standpoint and say, okay, I'll write them 10 blogs, but what is this going to do to a client, right? So spend time understanding how the market is moving in your client's industry. In your own industry, what are the new innovations coming in that you can offer? And then ultimately, how do you package all of this, right, to deliver the best results to your customers? So, just to give you an example, very recently I had the meeting with the chief marketing officer of a company, and it's a tech company because most of my clients are tech. So the question he asked me in the meeting was that, he didn't say, Supriya, okay, what else can you write for me this year, right? He said, I want more engagement and awareness for my brand, and what can we do for that? Now, this is where the value add comes in as a content creator or a content strategist, that you first pitch the idea, right? If you can show them the value in your ideas, then the execution automatically will come to you, right? So I've already sent them some things, and they can leverage those ideas to meet their goals. And once they're on board with it, then we'll talk about how I can help create all that content, or bring in those new formats that they need, right? So move from creator to strategist. So, and as you do this, right, and as you build a value proposition for yourself, it's also very important to show it, right? Because your clients, if you just keep doing blogs for them or social media for them, they'll never know what else you're capable of, right? So let these clients and prospects know what all can you do for them, which means definitely having more conversations with them, showing up, showing them, your face, that they can build trust in you. And this trusted relationship, right, will go beyond transactional, right? And this is where once you start building relationships, um, you will see how the money multiplies, right? How your demand multiplies, how um, referrals multiply, and then you continue, you get a sustainable source of income all built in, because you've moved, changed your value proposition, and you've been able to show your client what else you bring to the table.
Love that. So clients don't just want words or deliverables, they want results. What next?
Another thing is a very important thing today is mastering, or at least getting a good understanding of analytics. Okay. If you're able to track and measure the impact of your content, right? If you can tell a client, this website, like this blog, increase your website traffic by 20%, then you instantly become more valuable. Okay. And I get it. Okay. Like for my clients also, I don't have direct access to these metrics. The bigger the company, they're running their own analytics, they have their own teams. So, as a content writer working on a smaller project, you may not have access to all of these numbers, right? So, that's when again relationships become super important. That you ask the client how the content is performing, and then take that feedback and give more suggestions on how you can make the content more valuable. Um, to give you another example, last night I was having a call with a client, and they have a strategy meeting on Monday, and they're like, you know, I need to take my content, one particular piece of content, to 200,000 downloads per year, right? How do I do that? Okay. So they don't care. I mean, they do care, but they're not very bothered about exactly what is going into that content piece. But their goal is, how do I make it more exciting, more interesting, more valuable to my end readers so that 200,000 people download it? Okay. And then when I answered that question, and I also corrected those numbers, that this looks a little high given your industry, this might be a more reasonable number. The next question was, okay, where do I promote it? How do I promote it? What's gonna, the media cost going to be, right? Or what is the cost of creating something like this is going to be like? So you are now acting as a strategist and telling them, okay, this is what you need to do. Here's what your peers are doing. So what I did was I called up two people who are in a similar industry immediately after this call, had a discussion with them, understood what they're doing, went back to the client and say, masked all the information, of course, but told the client that, listen, this is what your peers are doing. And, if you want this kind of success, here's what you need to do as well, right? So in a matter of 2 to 3 hours, I was able to give them something that they could use for their meeting on Monday. And of course, if they want to execute it, they will come back to me. And at least not maybe for everything, but for a part of it, they're definitely going to come back to me, right? So move from like understanding the impact of your content, and for that a little bit of analytics and measuring the performance is also very important.
And what about AI? Should writers embrace it or avoid it?
Definitely embrace it, because I feel I mean, AI is going to be a collaborative partner. Okay. You cannot escape it. So it's better to learn how to work alongside it, right? So use it to speed up your research, to draft ideas, to even write your first draft, right? But the smarter writers, what they're going to do is, they're not going to stop at this, right? They're not going to generate the first AI draft and send it off to their clients directly. They are going to bring the human element in it, right? They're going to refine it, they're going to add the unique voice, they're going to add the stories, and then make the ultimate deliverable something that AI alone can't do, right? And it can totally add a lot of value to your productivity as a content writer. Like, I know someone who works for me, she's a writer, and she started using AI tools to handle things like research, or, to get some ideas. And this freed up so much of her time to focus on creative work, and she was able to double her output. The number of articles she wrote in a certain time frame, she literally doubled it, and which obviously meant she doubled her income as well, right? So a lot of potential to use AI. And we will increasingly see it, right? Human and AI collaboration that is getting stronger to create more engaging content. In fact, I feel client themselves will also enable it, right? And I was again reading something in 2023 when all this generative AI hype was still like going on majorly. Coca-Cola launched this one AI platform. It was called okay, I forget the name, but basically they wanted to call fans and artists to create real magic. Okay, and what the platform did was it combined the capabilities of that GPT-4, which is your ChatGPT kind of engines, generative AI engines, and DALI, right, which is this whole image producing AI, which you could like give text and it'll give AI output. And using this, they created a whole library of branded assets. Okay. And then they called fans to create their own digital artwork based on these AI generated branded assets that are available on this AI platform. Okay. Now, once fans have created their digital artwork, the fans they could download that artwork and they could submit the creations to the company, and what the company did was it took those artworks, it reviewed them, and the best results were then, showcased on digital billboards in New York's Times Square or London's Piccadilly Circus, like really prime spots. Okay. Now, while this is a more design-led collab, but it's already happening in a lot of places when it comes to content creation as well, right? And we'll keep seeing this um, happening a lot more. So yes, definitely embrace AI, learn to work with it as a partner, learn to come up with more innovative use cases of how you use AI in your, you know, in your whole writing creative process.
That's brilliant. So, to recap, the content writing industry is changing very fast. But if you focus on strategy, analytics, and creativity, you continue being relevant. Any final words of wisdom?
Just this, focus on what makes you irreplaceable. Okay. Ask yourself every day, what am I doing that an AI or a low cost competitor cannot do, right? And if you can answer that confidently, and if you can work on building those unique skills that keep you ahead of these competitors, then you are set.
Love that. And for our listeners, if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with a friend or fellow writer who needs to hear it. We've got plenty more actionable insights and a no BS advice coming your way. On that note, don't forget to check out the Content Collective. It's a space for writers and marketers to connect, grow, and level up their game. Join us and be a part of community that's shaping the future of content.
And also, don't forget to let us know your thoughts. What is your biggest challenge as a writer right now? Drop us a message and we might feature your question in a future episode. So, until next time, keep creating content that matters.